Hello everyone, I'm Emily and today I'm going to tell you a true story part 3. A couple of months have passed since I first felt that glimmer of hope again, and while life has been a series of unexpected turns, I'm starting to believe that maybe, just maybe, there's something more waiting for me. Mia and I didn't work out. I mean, it wasn't anything bad, it just didn't feel right, there was no spark, no deep connection. We both realized we weren't on the same page about what we wanted. That's fine. No one is going to check all the boxes. But it taught me something important. I don't need to force things just to fill a void. I need to wait for something that fits. Something that feels authentic, not something I'm rushing into because I'm scared of being alone. It's weird, though, how people pop into your life when you least expect it. Since Mia, I've stayed pretty low-key. Focused on work, therapy, and trying to figure out what I want in this next chapter. And then I met someone unexpectedly. Her name's Sarah. She's different, though. I wasn't looking for anything serious, hell, I was barely looking at all. But we connected through a mutual friend at a gathering. We talked for hours about everything from life to travel to our favorite shows. The best part? It was easy. There were no games. No pretending. She was just herself. I was just me. And that was refreshing in ways I didn't realize I needed. She didn't know about my past with Karen, and I didn't feel the need to bring it up right away. There was no pressure to explain myself. For the first time in a long while, I was just Mike, not the guy whose wife cheated on him, not the guy in a messy divorce. I was just a guy having a conversation with a girl who was genuinely interested in getting to know me. But what surprised me the most was how much I could see in her. It's funny how you don't realize how much you've changed until you're standing in front of someone who reminds you of what you used to be. Sarah has this energy about her that I hadn't noticed in a long time: confidence without arrogance, kindness without expectation. She's an open book. And it makes me realize how much I've closed myself off from the world. How much Karen's betrayal built walls that I'm just starting to tear down. We went on a second date last weekend. Nothing extravagant, just a walk around the city, a casual dinner. But there was something in the way Sarah looked at me. She saw me. Really saw me. Not like Karen did, when it felt like I was just there. No, Sarah saw the good, the bad, and everything in between. She didn't make me feel like I had to be anything but myself. And, maybe for the first time in a long time, I wasn't afraid to just be. I'm not saying I'm ready to jump into another serious relationship, I'm still figuring things out. But what I do know is that Sarah made me realize something important: I'm not broken. I'm not some damaged person who's incapable of loving again. Sure, Karen's betrayal left scars, but they don't define me. They're part of my story, sure, but they don't have to be the whole story. Sarah and I are taking things slow. I don't know where it's going, but I'm not rushing it. I'm not looking for something to fill a void anymore. I'm just living. Letting things unfold, one day at a time. And it feels good. I guess what I've learned is that life doesn't always go as planned. People leave, people hurt you, but that doesn't mean it's the end. It's just a chapter. Sometimes, it's the worst chapters that lead to the most unexpected, beautiful ones. And as much as I thought I'd lost everything with Karen, I've come to realize that the best part of me is still here, waiting to live and love again. I think what really stands out to me now is how much I've learned about boundaries. Not just with other people, but with myself. After everything with Karen, I was desperate to find answers. Why? What did I miss? Was it something I could have done differently? But now, after meeting Sarah and going through months of therapy, I've realized that the most important relationship I need to focus on is the one I have with myself. It's not about fixing the broken pieces or forcing myself into someone else's mold of who I should be. It's about taking ownership of my own happiness. No one else can do that for me. No one else should. Sarah and I have been seeing each other for a while now. We've kept it casual, no labels, no pressure. I don't want to rush into anything. But there's something so calming about her presence. It's like we've both agreed to keep things real and see where it goes, without trying to manipulate it or force it into a certain mold. And that's something I didn't even know I needed until I experienced it. That's not to say everything is perfect. There are moments when I catch myself withdrawing emotionally, retreating into my old habits. I still have that nagging fear of getting hurt again, of opening up too much and being vulnerable. I never thought I'd feel this way, but after Karen, I've learned to guard myself. Not because I don't trust Sarah, but because I don't want to repeat the mistakes of the past. It's a strange balance, letting myself trust again, but also taking it slow, respecting my own need for space. There are times when I'll hold back from sharing too much, but Sarah's been incredibly patient. She doesn't push me. In fact, she encourages me to take things at my own pace. I didn't realize how rare that was until now. The other day, we had a long conversation about our pasts. She opened up about her previous relationships, how she's learned from them and how they've shaped her. I felt a little hesitant at first, but I pushed myself to be open. I told her about Karen and how that whole experience has changed me. I was surprised at how easy it was to talk about it, how I wasn't carrying that weight the way I had been for so long. I didn't expect it to feel so freeing. I wasn't ashamed of my past anymore. I wasn't hiding from it. It was part of who I am, but it didn't have to control me. Sarah didn't judge me. She didn't pity me. She just listened, and I could tell that she respected me more for being honest. After that conversation, it felt like a door opened. A little crack, a little light getting in. It wasn't the same kind of rush I felt when I was with Karen, but there was something even more important now: peace. Sarah and I have our own rhythm now. We're not trying to fix each other. We're just enjoying the moments we share, no matter how small or simple they might be. I've learned that boundaries aren't just about saying no to others, they're about respecting your own needs, your own limits. I've been so focused on other people's expectations for so long that I lost sight of what I needed. I think that's why I was so willing to accept Karen's behavior for so long. I ignored my own feelings, my own discomfort. But now, I've learned to check in with myself. To ask, is this right for me? Do I feel safe? And for the first time in a long time, I'm not afraid to answer those questions honestly. I think I've reached a place where I can genuinely say I'm starting to move forward. But life has a way of reminding you that healing isn't always linear, and sometimes the past knocks on your door when you least expect it. It happened a couple of weeks ago. I was sitting at my apartment, working on some emails when my phone buzzed. It was a text message from an unfamiliar number. I almost ignored it, but something told me to open it. And I'm glad I did. The message simply read, "Hey, Mike. It's Karen. I know this is out of the blue, but I need to talk to you. Can we meet up? Please." At first, I stared at the screen for a long time, my heart racing. The anxiety, the old anger, and the hurt, all those emotions came rushing back in an instant. I hadn't heard from her in months. I figured she was off living her life, with Matt or whoever else she was with, so why now? Why after all this time? I didn't respond right away. My mind raced as I tried to make sense of it. What did she want? Apologies? Closure? Or was this some last-ditch attempt to disrupt my life? Sarah had been so supportive, and I didn't want to bring this burden to her. It wasn't her problem. But I found myself sitting on the edge of my bed, feeling completely torn. I thought about all the things I'd worked through, how far I'd come, and I didn't want to let one message drag me back into that chaos. But I also realized something important. I was different now. I wasn't that guy who felt powerless in a relationship anymore. I wasn't that guy who let someone walk all over him. So, maybe it was time to face this head on. To meet Karen and finally get the closure I never allowed myself to have. So I texted her back, agreeing to meet up. The message was short: "Okay, let's meet tomorrow. 3 p.m. at the old coffee shop." That was the last place we'd gone before everything fell apart. It felt fitting. The next day, I walked into the coffee shop a little early. The familiar scent of espresso filled the air, but the space felt different now. It wasn't our place anymore. Not for me. When Karen walked in, she looked different. The woman I had once shared everything with seemed like a stranger now. She was dressed casually, nothing extravagant, but it was clear she was trying to look good. Maybe for me. Maybe for herself. I couldn't tell. She looked older, more tired. But her eyes. I could see the hesitation, the guilt lingering there. We sat down across from each other. For a moment, neither of us said anything. The silence was thick, heavy with everything that had happened between us. But eventually, Karen broke it. "I'm sorry, Mike," she said, her voice softer than I remembered. "I know I've hurt you, and I'll never be able to take that back. I didn't know how to fix it before. I was so lost, and I kept lying to myself. I was selfish. I was confused. And I can't change that, but I wanted you to know that I regret it." The words hit me like a punch to the gut, but not in the way they used to. I didn't feel that same rush of anger or sadness. Instead, it was like a strange sense of clarity washed over me. This was what I had been waiting for, something real, something raw. I took a breath and looked at her, trying to keep my emotions in check. "I don't know what you expect from me, Karen. I don't know what I expect either. But hearing this, it's not going to change anything. We're not the same people we were. I'm not the same person. And I've spent so much time forgiving you in my head, but it doesn't mean it's been easy." She nodded, her eyes downcast. "I know. I don't expect you to forgive me, Mike. I just wanted to apologize. I just needed to say that to you." And for a moment, we sat there in quiet understanding. Not everything needed to be fixed. Not everything needed to be forgiven right away. But it was a step, one final piece of closure that I hadn't known I was missing. I stood up to leave, offering a short goodbye, and that was it. I didn't feel angry or devastated, and I didn't feel relieved. I just felt done. It was over. I had let go of the past completely. There were no more questions. No more wondering about what if. I was free. The next few days after meeting Karen felt strange, almost surreal. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't carrying that weight of unresolved questions. I didn't feel the urge to dwell on the past. It was like a weight had lifted, one I didn't even realize I was still carrying. Sarah and I had a conversation about the meeting. I didn't go into details, but I told her that it was necessary. I was honest with her about the closure I needed, and she understood. That's one of the things I've come to appreciate about Sarah, her emotional maturity. She didn't make me feel guilty for meeting with Karen. She didn't make me choose. Instead, she supported me. She understood that healing isn't a straight line, and sometimes, closure comes in unexpected forms. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I was moving forward, really moving forward. The healing wasn't about erasing the past, but rather accepting it. I stopped seeing my past mistakes as stains on my soul, and I started seeing them as lessons. Lessons that have helped shape who I am now. I've come to appreciate the person I've become because of all the heartache, because of the self-reflection, and because of the growth I've undergone. Sarah and I continue to spend time together, but I was careful not to rush into anything. I didn't want to repeat the mistakes I made with Karen. I didn't want to hold on to the past, but I also didn't want to ignore the lessons I learned. The most important lesson being that love can't be rushed or forced, it has to evolve naturally. Months passed, and things between Sarah and me slowly blossomed. It wasn't the whirlwind romance I'd once had with Karen. But it was steady. It was grounded. And it felt right. For the first time in my life, I wasn't looking for someone to fill a void. I was simply enjoying being with someone who brought out the best in me. Karen's presence in my life faded. I hadn't heard from her again after our meeting. And you know what? That was okay. I didn't need her validation anymore. I didn't need to know how she was doing or if she was happy with Matt or anyone else. I had let go of the part of me that was still clinging to the idea of what could have been. Now, it was about what was and what I was building for myself. I still have days when the past comes to mind. I still have days when I catch myself second-guessing decisions, or when I feel the sting of betrayal and wonder how I ever let someone hurt me like that. But those days are fewer now. And when they come, I can acknowledge them, feel them, and then let them go. Because I know I'm stronger than I was before. Life isn't perfect. There are still days when I wish things had gone differently with Karen, but I'm no longer tethered to that version of myself. I've grown. I've healed. And most importantly, I've learned to trust again, first myself, and now Sarah. As for Karen, she's a part of my past, but she doesn't define my future. I'm not the same person I was when we first met, and I'm proud of that. I've learned to love myself again, to know my worth. And that's something I'll carry with me for the rest of my life. I don't know what's ahead, but for the first time in a long time, I'm excited to find out. With Sarah, with myself, and with whatever life has in store for me. If there's one thing I could say to anyone who's been through something similar, it's this: don't let the past hold you hostage. The betrayal, the hurt, the anger, it's all valid, but it doesn't have to define who you are. Healing takes time. It's messy. But the most important thing you can do is to never stop moving forward. Trust that, no matter how painful it is, there's a life on the other side of the hurt, one that's waiting for you to live fully, authentically, and without fear. So take it day by day. Trust yourself. And when you're ready, let love find you again. But this time, let it be the kind that doesn't come with conditions or regrets. Let it be the kind that grows at your own pace. And above all, remember, you are enough. You always have been. Thank you very much. See you in the next video.